Mohtadi, can you hear us? Mr. Mohtadi?
Yes, hello.
Yes, perfect. So, excuse us for the technical problems on our side. Thank you for being here. I would like to give you the floor to give an introduction of 7 minutes. So, Mr. Mohtadi, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Honorable members of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Dutch House of Representatives, dear Mr. Jesse Klaver, dear Ms. Kati Piri, honorable members of the Dutch Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for the invitation to appear before the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Dutch Parliament. I am truly grateful for the opportunity to address the committee, and I am pleased and honored to be here today. Dear friends, the war between the United States and Israel with Iran has for months placed Iran at the center of global attention, from the media to think tanks to parliaments and governments. Given the scale of the conflict and its impact, that's only natural. But we should not forget what has come before and what has even been the greater cause of suffering, death, and destruction during long, dark years of the ruling regime in Iran. Back in January, the regime carried out a brutal crackdown and mass killing of protesters who had taken to the streets to protest worsening economic conditions, corruption, and authoritarian rule. Thousands, and probably tens of thousands, were killed by the Islamic regime's security forces. 3 years earlier, we had the Women Life Freedom Movement, during which Kurdistan emerged as the leading force behind the broadest and most enduring and probably the most progressive movement for political change in Iran. That peaceful movement was also brutally crushed and drowned in blood. The point is, however impactful the current war is, and however significant its domestic and regional consequences may be, it is not and has not been the single defining conflict in Iran. For years, Iranian society has been locked in a relentless struggle for change, for basic rights, freedom, human dignity, and the chance to live in peace against the ruthless, corrupt, and adventurous regime. Take Kurdistan as an example. The violent repression of the Kurdish people began just 5 weeks after the victory of the Islamic Revolution in 1979, when government forces unleashed waves of gunfire on the protesting city of Sanandaj. A few months later, without any justification, Khomeini declared the jihad against the people of Kurdistan, denouncing them as infidels and launching a war of repression that has now continued for nearly 5 decades. In short, the Islamic Republic's war against its own people, against Kurds, Baluchis, Turkmens, and Arabs, against women, labor unions, students, journalists, the Baha'i community, and many others, began years, even decades before any foreign conflict. It began before the seizure of the US Embassy in Tehran, before the Iran-Iraq war, before Iran's proxy wars across the region, and long before the recent conflict with Israel and the United States. The domestic conflict has never ceased. There has been no memorandum of understanding between the regime and the people, and the ruling regime is not willing to sign a ceasefire agreement with its own people. That is why we urge Europe and indeed the world not to let the Iranian people's struggle for freedom, justice, and basic human rights, as well as the Kurdish people's legitimate struggle for freedom, to be overshadowed by any disagreements with the United States or any criticism of Israel you might have. We call on you to clearly condemn and isolate the Iranian regime for its heinous crimes, and to stand with the people of Kurdistan and all the people of Iran in their fight against ethnic, linguistic, and religious discrimination, and in their pursuit of freedom, democracy, basic human rights. That is in the best interest of the people of Iran, the whole region, and the international community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mohtadi. And I would like to give the floor for the first question to Mr. Seder.
Thank you so much. My name is Dan Seder, Member of Parliament for the Christian Union. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I have a question concerning the role of the European Union. As we know, the last few months have been very painful, also for the Iranian people, and a lot of suffering and people who died. My question is, where do you see a specific role for the European Union in the next couple of months or years to hopefully ensure a transition towards a free Iran?
Mr. Mohtadi, we collect some of the questions. So first we go to Ms. Maas for your question.
Thank you very much for your introduction. You mentioned that we or the world needs to isolate the Iranian regime. Do you have any ideas on how we can do that? Because also this afternoon we heard, for example, that sanctions might not be so effective and might be symbolic. So I wonder what you think would be a good way to isolate the regime.
Mr. Elian?
Thank you for speaking to us, Mr. Mohtadi. How do you see, if we all succeed in this ferocious fight we are in against the regime and the regime would be gone, how do you see the future of Iran, and how do you see the position of the Kurdish people in a new Iran?
Ms. Abdi?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Mr. Mohtadi for your introductory remarks. A lot of questions have been asked, so let me ask another question. In your remarks, you mentioned that the situation applied to the Kurdish people and other minorities has been very grave, very severe. There's been cultural, religious persecution. And this has not only been the case under Islamic regime, but has been before. So I was wondering if you can say a bit more about that and how we can ensure that their rights are protected in a democratic Iran in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Abdi. Mr. Mohtadi, please.
Well, to begin with, thank you for your questions and your concerns. As I told you, as everybody knows, that in January there was kind of massacres in Tehran and big cities of in Iran, and it was time. It was time for the Europeans, for the international community, to at least call their ambassadors in Iran and made a big protest against the Iranian regime. We didn't see such a thing. So I think that diplomatic isolation is one way. Making contacts with the Iranian civil society and the Iranian political parties, the Pakistan and other parties are very important. So these are putting pressure on the Iranian regime diplomatically, and also how can I say, open doors of negotiation and engagement engagement with the Iranian opposition, democratic opposition, ethnic groups, civil society is the way that I suggest for the time being. As for the future of Iran, I think if Iran or when Iran is a democratic country, we think that the rights of the Kurdish people as well as other ethnic minorities must be acknowledged and preserved by the new constitution of Iran. That's a very brief answer. Anything I should add? Any new questions or questions I didn't answer?
Let me check if all the questions are answered, or are there any more questions, Mr. Seder?
Thank you so much. You responded to my question a few months ago. If I can paraphrase that, the diplomatic ties should have been cut or at least more intensified pressure than the countries or the parliaments did. Could you expand on that and also explain why the EU reaction also benefited the regime in a certain way? So could you explain and help us as parliamentarians to also create that causal, or help us see that causal connection?
Mr. Mohtadi.
It has been a kind of understanding or viewpoint by the Europeans that by dealing with Iran diplomatically and commercially in trade and diplomacy, you can have an impact on the Iranian regime, make them milder, more moderate, and eventually you will have a moderate regime that is a normal government, and you can deal with, like every other government, with weak points and strong points. But that isn't the case in Iran. Time and again, the Iranian regime has shown the world that they are not ready to compromise. They're anti-West, they're anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-Europe. They want to annihilate Israel. They want to destabilize the Arab countries and overthrow them. They are seeking a new Shiite empire in the region. They're seeking hegemony. As you saw during the wars, they struck the different countries, their bases, their refineries, their residential areas, their business areas. So this is the kind of regime that you see in Iran. I have no sign, I can see no sign of any for the better in the new or in the new rank of the regime, the new leaders of the Islamic regime in Tehran. So I think it has to be more political and economic pressure, more diplomatic pressure, and more engagement with the Iranian people, both its political parties and its civil society. And another problem with Europeans is that they have some probably justified criticisms of the policies of the United States administration, but this doesn't mean that you have to be more lenient towards Iran. They have committed heinous crimes, and they will do so in the future. They will suppress their people. They will more than before, and they will try to make new gains against the United States, Europe. They are choking the Strait of Hormuz. So you cannot deal with them as a normal country, as a normal government.
Thank you, Mr. Mohtadi. Ms. Maas.
Freedom movement in Iran openly is the way I think.
All right. Ms. Maas.
Thank you very much. I'm puzzled a little bit by what you say about diplomatic isolation and at the same time open the doors for civil society. Just to clarify, what exactly do you mean with diplomatic isolation? And in my opinion, you can only open the doors to civil society if you have people on the ground being able to talk to the civil society. Because as we heard already in part 2 of this session, is that you really need to talk to the people there to make a change. How do you look at that?
Mr. Mohtadi.
You have people there and you have people outside. For example, you have the biggest teachers' union in Iran for years. They're still alive and they're fighting for their rights in the society. We have very famous political prisoners inside Iran. And also we have political parties. We have political entities outside the country with deep roots in the society. Our party, for example, or Kurdish parties in general, have deep roots in the society. They have, it's just the tip of the iceberg that you see. Their headquarters probably is outside, some elements are outside, but the main body of our activities are inside the country. And we have been managed organize a coalition of Kurdish parties in recent months. This is just one example. The Freedom Congress of Iran is another example. It was a very, it is a very democratic, widespread, diverse combination or coalition of the democratic, both civil societies, human rights activists and organizations, and political parties, women activists, teachers activists, student activists, all kinds of people, ethnic groups. So there are people for you to take into account.
Thank you. Mr. Elion.
So thank you. I am still wondering, because you were not really specific, how do you see, again, if we succeed in this fight and the regime falls, how do you see the future and how do you see the Kurdish people inside the new future in a free Iran?
Mr. Mohtadi.
Well, Kurds have a population of at least 10 million people out of 90 million people, the whole population of Iran. They live in 4 provinces in northwestern and western Iran, with some adjacent pockets of Kurdish communities. We have a huge community, Kurdish community in Tehran and all that. We have Kurdish communities in the eastern part of Iran. So what we are talking about first is a new Iran in our opinion, if it is supposed to be expected to be a democratic one, it has to be a decentralized country, which with the recognition of the rights of ethnic groups. Iran is a multi-ethnic, multi-nationality group with Kurds, Azeris, Baluchis, Arabs, Turkmens, and others. So we think that a federal system is best for Iran. The Kurdish parties and their coalition has announced time and again that they are not separatists. They are seeking their rights within the framework of the Iranian society and Iran as a country.
Thank you. Ms. Abdi, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to follow up on that last remark about being called a separatist. You have been a political prisoner under the Shah regime, and now Mr. Pahlavi has refused to speak with you on a panel today and has called you separatist. So I want to know what your response is to that and what that says about the democratic opposition.
Mr.
Can't hear
Mohtadi.
you.
Mr. Mohtadi, the floor is yours. It seems that we have a...
Can't hear you.
Ah, Mr. Mohtadi, now we can hear you. Can you hear us? Mr. Mohtadi? Ik schors de vergadering voor enkele ogenblikken. Gaan we even naar de techniek kijken. Dit is een ronde tafelgesprek met hindernissen, zullen we maar zeggen.
The sound is on, and I'm saying...
Ah, Mr. Mohtadi, welcome back.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's good to have you back. Maybe you could say you were talking, but we haven't heard anything. So maybe you could start your answer on the question of Ms. Abdi from the beginning. Mr. Mohtadi, the floor is yours.
Thank you. What I was saying was that Iran is a multi-ethnic, multinational country, multi-religious country. It's a diverse country. It's a remnant of an ancient and medieval empires. So we have different languages, different religions, different ethnic groups. The best way for these different communities to live in peace together is a federal democratic system where the rights of every community, their cultural and political and administrative rights, are acknowledged and preserved by the constitution. And that is a federal system. The Iranian political parties, the coalition of Iranian political parties, which we managed to build a few months ago, has openly declared that they are not for separatists. They want a democratic Iran, and they want to pursue their rights within the country of Iran. Did you hear it?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I would like to give you the possibility to give some. First of all, let me check if there are any questions left. Yeah, Ms. Maas.
Thank you very much. Yes, you're very clear on that you would like to have a decentralized Iran in the future. Could you imagine Iran to be a centralized state? I mean, if you look at, for example, France, maybe a good example, also a big country, centralized government. Could you imagine Iran also being centralized and then maybe divided in provinces, where provinces, just like in the Netherlands, do have some kind of self-government, but not being the central government? And especially given the fact that you are focusing so much on these federal state structure, but also in the light of the minorities that are in Iran.
Mr. Mohtadi.
Yes, even the European countries were more centralized. France is a clear example of that. But in France, you don't have, as far as I know, I'm not an expert on that, you don't have so many different languages. You don't have so many different peoples, different religions, different languages. Each people with its own land, with its own history, with its own culture. So you have to do something about it. And the level of national and cultural consciousness, the identity that people connects people together is more powerful than before, than even a few decades ago. So you have countries like Canada, like Spain, even like Italy, north of Italy. You have the German-speaking people, and they have their own rights. They're kind of self-rule or internal autonomy. Why is it wrong for Iran to have that? While Iran is ripe for that, is
Helaas treedt er weer een verstoring op in de verbinding. En de tijd is nu heel kort. Dus anders kan meneer Mohtadi komt er misschien in. En dan kunnen we afscheiden. We zullen zorgen dat we netjes de heer Mohtadi zullen bedanken voor zijn bijdrage. Maar daarbij sluit ik dit deel van de ronde tafel sluiten we hiermee af. Ik wil graag alle aanwezigen hier hartelijk bedanken voor hun aanwezigheid. Het volgende deel, het is al een paar keer gememoreerd, zal in beslotenheid plaatsvinden. Daarom zal ik de bodes vragen om de zaal, ga ik even schorsen, dan wordt u gevraagd de zaal te verlaten. Wordt de vergadering